Hello, everyone.
Welcome.
Hey, welcome back.
Welcome back to We All Have Stuff
Four.
episode 64. Thanks, Squad, for joining us for our 64th episode.
Yay, we love this. And
Taking it
another
apart.
Disney episode. We love this.
Love this. So today we decided to talk about a topic that I think the majority of people have concern with, but how it can be detrimental to our mental health is the political climate of our world right now.
Hmm.
So Gabby, question for you. Like,
Yeah.
what are some tools, or what would you say maybe you even have people struggling with when, and what are they struggling with when it comes to how to cope and deal with the world being on fire? The
Yeah, I
world
think
war.
it's such it's such a loaded question. I think that there are a couple of factors that make it more stressful given that we're in 2026 than maybe 20 years ago. And I think it's the mass amounts of information, whether accurate or misinformation, that are floating around at all times. It's the algorithm feeding you things that maybe you clicked on once out of curiosity and now you're being bombarded with it. I think it's the societal expectation that if you don't take a stand on things, that you are just a bad person, as well as just feeling the need to know everything and emotionally take responsibility for the way things are in the world. I think disclaimer, like we are not getting political on this episode, but I think it's important just to discuss some of the issues that come up for mental and emotional health, given that our societal climate is just different every day. There's different news, there's crises, there's wars, there's all sorts of political information that's coming out, as well as other worldwide news that we just like can't seemingly get a break from.
How scary it can be for people.
Yeah.
I think it is back to like humans often being like, what can I control, right? Because I think a lot of people, which I don't think is necessarily always a bad thing, but it's like I definitely think the question to ask yourself when it comes to a lot of the political climate is how is this impacting my life and my emotional and mental health? Because some people I do think can be more involved because they want to be, and some people I think need to realize and take a step back and put more boundaries on themselves, even though they
Yeah.
might want to be that person.
Hmm.
But can you be that person for like your own life and feeling okay in your life, if that makes
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, I think it comes down to the discomfort of feeling like you want to put yourself in a vacuum and not be bombarded with things, but then you also feel out of the loop, which makes people feel out of control. Like you
Right.
said, what's the middle ground between I want to protect my peace and my sanity and my emotional well-being because this is very heavy stuff all the time, and I just don't have space for it versus I feel like I need to be educated about what's going on in the world. So, what's the line? And how do we help people foster that limit in a way that isn't going to be detrimental?
Which I think is a hard question because it definitely is a thing that each individual has to figure out for themselves. Like I can't really give a formula like, "Hey, I think you
Yeah.
shouldn't do A, B, C, D. E. I think
Right.
that would be bad for you."
Hmm.
If I always think about it in the sense of, when people like people want to protest, other people don't, like stuff
Yeah.
when it comes to like anything. And
Right.
it's like some people are really much really like in order to take control in my life, I just want to do something that makes me feel good. And I think
Yeah.
going out and making a stand, like why I'm going to say I like that approach for who, if that works for somebody, is I
Hmm.
got a client once say that. She goes, I just get home and I feel good about what I did. I'm like, good, healthy coping. But
Yeah.
when somebody's like, oh my God, Alessia, I work 65 hours a week and beating themselves up, like, and I know this is going on in the world and I should be doing all this stuff and I need to, oh, I
Yeah.
need to carve out my the 2 hours of space I do have. I need to go do more and I need to be caring more and I need to go. And it's like, do you?
Yeah.
Like, do you have the space and is that really going to make you feel good? Or now you're going to force yourself to do stuff and feel more anxious and consumed? Because I'm thinking about another client. I'm like, no, she's the kind of person that goes and does something and then she's like more stressed and more overwhelmed. And now she doesn't have time for her own life. And she's not actually enjoying it when she's there because she's so stressed about so much other stuff. But I'm
Yeah.
like, those two people just, it hits them differently.
Right.
So if you don't know what's going to help me cope with it, then you're going to be the one dealing with it.
Yeah. And I do think it's okay to say, like, I don't care.
Yeah.
And it doesn't
Which
mean
people get a bad rap for.
people, yeah, people get a very bad rap. And I think we see this a lot with people or influencers or politicians or, pop culture stars that don't take a stance on certain things. Oh, well, you just are a terrible person because you're not participating in raising awareness or making a statement about this. And it's like, in all reality, no one cares what Beyonce thinks about XYZ going on in the world. No one cares, okay? Whether someone takes a stance or, that's not going to change the outcome of 99% of things in the world. So I think it's okay to say, from my personal mental health, I don't care. And that doesn't mean you're not a warm person. It doesn't mean you're not an empathetic person, but it means you don't have the space or capacity to care about everything. As humans, we are not biologically wired to care about everything. That's not
Well, I
survival.
like that because I think that verbiage of like, how do I say this? I think a lot of people, and I think you can give yourself permission to be like, I care and this sucks. And I think the way of the world right now sucks ass. And I'm
Yeah.
sad about it. And the world is like so messed up. And there's so much stuff happening that I don't agree with. Period.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to go post on Facebook. I don't have to go to a protest. I don't have to go try to storm the White House. I don't have to try to go out and do something crazy. It's like, how can I just acknowledge that, like, yeah, maybe it's scary and I'm aware of it and I feel kind of just helpless about it. And that's the only energy I can really give to it.
Right.
But those people get a bad rap. It's like,
Yeah.
well, if you care so much, you should be doing more. But then what would you want to do to make yourself feel better? And I definitely think the hardest part of a lot of this is like what we keep going back to is how do you silence the noise out of everybody who is going to have their opinion that you should be doing more?
I don't know that there's a perfect answer for that, but I do think if you're going to take a stance on something, let it be that you do or do not have capacity to take on the burden of something. It is okay to not feel like you have to defend yourself, but say, you know what, I just don't have energy to educate myself on this issue A. I don't, and in reality, powerlessness and helplessness suck, but they're part of life. And I think that that's very important to teach people. Like, you are not going to have power and control over everything. You might hate that there is a famine somewhere in the world, but you posting about it on Facebook or you having a banner on your Instagram is going to do absolutely nothing for said famine, right?
But if it makes you feel good,
Yeah, if it
post
makes
a
you feel
banner and
good.
you're like, no, this is just something I care about, and that gives you
Right.
peace.
Raising
Sure,
awareness.
why not?
Right. Right. But I think that it's important to understand that that's a dichotomy, that you can care about it, but also still feel like you're not able to do anything about it,
Right.
which is where the discomfort comes for a lot of people. Like, well, I just have to be very loud about this so people know that I care. But that's
Right.
exhausting. And there is a phenomenon that is becoming extremely rampant in our society called compassion fatigue. And I've educated myself a lot about this because I think it's very interesting. People feel guilt because they don't care. Their reserves of compassion are gone. Their reserves of empathy are gone because you are literally spreading it across every issue that comes across your plate. And it comes a point where, okay, well, now I have feeling for nothing. I'm just so tired of being sorry for everything else and feeling warm and connected to everything in such a powerful way that I just have nothing else to give. And that becomes very difficult because, yes, that will impact your current ongoing relationships and things that are more proximal to your life, right? You care so much about every little issue that comes up and have poured yourself into things that honestly you're not going to touch with a 9-foot pole just by caring about it. And I do think that it is important to be honest with yourself that no matter how much you care about some things and no matter how loud you are about some issues, you alone are going to do nothing to impact that.
Yeah.
Political issues, you are I look at myself and I think this is where you go back to thinking how it was when you're a kid and you're like, I'm the center of the universe and everything around me is like a game, right?
Yeah.
If you consider yourself like that, I'm just one person in a house somewhere in Florida, right? Me caring about this one issue is not going to change legislature about ABC, right? And that's a really powerful, sucky thing to think about when you're like, hey, I believe in that. I think that this isn't the way it should be. or this going on in the world is not the way it should be. It sucks to feel powerless, but that's life.
Yeah.
And
I
that's
think
the
I think
way.
the pushback people get when they say that,
Mm-hmm.
it's often like, well, if there would be enough of us, enough of you to care, then the world can change. The world can only change if there's a group of people who make the change, right? So be that person. It's like this pressure, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
valid, but at what cost?
And also, caring is not action.
Yeah.
So I think that that's important too. You can have 400 people that feel passionately about something, but if they're just sitting talking about it, there's nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to happen,
Right.
you know? So there comes that threshold, I think, that again we get pushback from, well, if you don't care, or if you care but you do nothing, it's not good enough. But if you try to do something, there's not enough of you, it's not good. Like nothing is ever going to be good enough, but I think it's okay to just say, I don't have the space. This is too heavy right now, and that's fine. Ultimately, the things that are going on in the world are going to go on whether you care about them or not. And that's not to sound callous, but it is the reality that we see a lot of clients coming in and saying, I already have all this crap going on in my life. And now I've also consumed myself with, think of all the things we have going on. The Epstein files. If you're a parent, a lot of that is really heavy and it sucks to read. It's very scary stuff, right? And then wars, and then, just political stuff, and God knows what else. I mean, you can't even list all these things. But people internalize them because there's mass information all the time. And then it's like, well, now I can't even deal with my own normal stuff because I'm consumed by all of this stuff. So, that is why it's relevant to say, like, where are you putting your energy?
Right.
You
And I
know?
think it's definitely harder now
Yeah.
because of what you said at the beginning. Like, what you don't people don't fact check stuff, right? We have
No.
social media, people posting their opinions, not facts. Real facts being exposed because we have the internet, and then
Right.
AI, and you have like all this stuff. So it's
Yeah.
like, how much can you actually care where you're not just like, oh my God, I'm just going to consume all this information all day for what?
Yeah.
To sit in distress at my house, my small home in Florida.
Right.
And just to sit here and torture myself of how shitty the world is and how shitty the government is and how shitty the bigger scheme of things and how there's all these bad people. There are.
Yeah.
And that sucks. And I think there's a lot of like, I don't want to accept the helplessness of a lot of it. And do I think there are? I do. And I think what this would be interesting because this is one client I've never had.
Yeah.
And I always think it would be interesting to have a politician as a client
Mm.
because I'm like, I always think about it when I have a client struggling with this stuff because I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, day to day though, I'm a therapist, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
like my views of the world matter to me, yes. And
Sure.
then I have to also zone in on my life, my career, my people, whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm always like, I wonder, and when people are coming in and talking, I'm like, how do I get them more in their own life and what is mentally and emotionally healthy for them? How do we set boundaries? Like, how do we
Mm-hmm.
limit social media? How do we limit the news? But then I think
Right.
about like one of my clients said that she goes, it's really hard for me because she works in a field where her job is she has to watch the news because they have to see what's going on in the world because she does a lot of systems for stuff. So she's like, we
Mm.
have to kind of know the political climate. She goes, but it sucks, and I only try to do it like one day a week. And I'm like,
Yeah.
the mental health of a politician though, who has to be involved in it, but like there are obviously that's something I'm assuming this. I don't know this. I would
Mm-hmm.
assume the people that are actually trying to make it to the top to make a change realistically
Yeah.
are the people that is what they're living for.
Right.
That is their purpose and they're wanting to consume their life in it and they're making
Yeah.
that choice. That becomes their life. Like I don't think you can be in politics and that not be your life. So if that works for you because you're like born and you're like, my goal is to be a really good politician. I want to do A, B, and C at the top, and you make it to
Yeah.
the top and you're part of government and kudos to you.
Yeah.
That's not majority of people, and I think a lot of people act like they're like trying to get to that role. But I'm like, is that realistic? Are you realistically going to be a politician that's up there making change? Majority of people not.
Yeah.
So, but it
Right.
would be interesting to see the mental health and emotional health of a politician.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think because the stuff that they're dealing with is going to be heavy, regardless
Absolutely.
of their role in it, right? And I think we're also not discouraging people from taking action. I think like
Right.
let's say that. But given that I've yet to have a client who comes in and says, "Hey, I decided to take action on something and I feel awesome about it."
Yeah.
Very often that's not the case. So very often it's like I'm spiraling.
Right.
I'm very overwhelmed and I just like I can't even just escape the horrors of the world, right? So if you want to make change, that's great and that's fine. And we're definitely supportive of that. Um,
If it sits right with your soul
yeah.
and you feel good about it and you're not living in distress.
Right. And also, like you said, if you're not forcing yourself because you think you should,
Right.
because then the motive is wrong, Whew, it's so heavy. But I don't know. I think when another thing that's very difficult is because people have such polarized views on so many things. What happens when a client comes into therapy and they want you as an ally, right? They want you as an ally to the things that they believe. That's really hard because I mean, I've had clients be like, "Oh, you like such and such, right?" And I think it's very trite, like we're very trained to say, why is that important to you?" Right? Where I find it more relevant to say, you know, honestly, it doesn't really matter what I think because in the real world, you're going to encounter more people than not who disagree with you. And exercise in here is for you to grow in feeling secure in the things that you believe in and want to aspire to and want to raise awareness about. So, yeah, that's not something I'm going to share with you one way or another, but I'm happy to process your side. If you're coming in here being like, hey, I need somebody to back me up, you need to be able to defend why you feel a certain way, or maybe not, or get comfortable with saying, hey, like, I don't want to talk about that. It is isolating for people because, those two topics, right? Religion and politics are very difficult to bring up, and a lot of people feel reluctant to talk about them. So it can feel isolating, and some people come to therapy like, oh, hey, this is my space to talk about. And it is, but this is not your space to find your new best friend who shares your beliefs or doesn't. And I think that's hard. And I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this because I also see, given how tumultuous the climate is, that there are a lot of clients that are looking for therapists that specifically fit, their political stance. So you'll see, oh, looking for a therapist who is leaning this way or centered in this type of religious belief. And I find that like troubling because I think our profession is supposed to be not only open and unbiased to everyone, right? But also that to some extent bias the way that your therapy is going to go. You're not necessarily able, I feel like, or a client's not going to share certain things if they know that you align or don't align with them in certain things.
I partly agree with you and I partly disagree because I think my mind went to valid. Like if
Mm-hmm.
like me, I don't think I would mind but I would also trust in a really good therapist and I do think there's therapists that aren't good at that.
Are
I
not
think
good at that boundary, you mean?
I think that there's therapists that would, have their own views and maybe not feel as a safe spot to somebody because sometimes I think a good therapist you like you're neutral and you can understand both perspectives, right? Like I
Right,
can
that's what I'm
understand
saying.
pretty much
You should
anything.
be.
Right, but
Yeah,
not everyone is, and I definitely
not
think we know
everyone is.
that.
Yeah.
We know that, but I also do feel like if you're coming in as the client and you're like, "Hey, I want to talk about A, but I'm
Hmm.
worried that my therapist isn't open and that's like their perspective is exactly the thing I'm going to bitch about."
Yeah.
It's like, do I think we could give good insight of just like putting our stuff aside and helping that
Sure.
person out? I do. But I think that's hard for a client. So I do think it's one of those
Yeah.
things of really wanting somebody that can relate and
Hmm.
understand you. It's kind of like wanting to go to a therapist who's had something similar happen,
Sure. Yeah.
right? When you're like, oh, okay, I want a therapist who lost their husband because like I really want
Mhm.
somebody to get me on a deep level.
Yeah.
I think one of us could still treat that person? I do. But if
Yeah.
that makes them feel like I just feel really connected with this therapist because she really gets it.
I just think experiences and beliefs are two different things. I think if you've
Oh,
been through something as a therapist and you can say, hey, I'm a grief therapist because I've been through loss and I feel like this gives me a leg up, right? Or I work in divorce, relevant, right? But I think it gets a little dicey when you talk about like beliefs and preferences and values, right? So and it is something that's so common and it comes up often with clients like, hey,
absolutely.
do you feel this way? And it's like, well, certain things I'm going to disclose to you, but other things are not going to be helpful, you know?
I think it's hard because it's also like I know some of my views and stuff, and I
Hmm.
still make it a point to help my even if my say my client has the same views as me as I would
Yeah.
say.
Mhm.
When I hear them talking, I'm still like really trying to help them see the other perspective as well because I can
100%.
still see it.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not like validate, yeah, because I agree with you, which I think is
Right.
kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That some therapists and clients, it's like I consider invalidating you and be like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But am I going to say, yes, I totally maybe even agree with you, but have you considered that this
Mhm.
person believes and thinks this way because of X?
Right.
Can you be open minded to that experience so you're not stuck on hate
Yeah,
and like your own
exactly. Right.
ruminations of why these people are doing what they're doing and
Yeah, and
stuff?
I think that's kind of where I'm getting at that therapy for worldly issues is sort of becoming an outlet for like, okay, well, I don't want to feel alone, and I also want to sort of back up the things that I'm saying and doing, even if they're to my detriment, you know? And I think the value of therapy in this type of environment and our culture and everything that's going on is to say like, hey, open your eyes, like what are you not seeing,
Yeah.
or what are you pigeonholing yourself into, or what amounts of ownership of what's going on in the world is detrimental to you, where I think there is that desire, which is human, to find someone that you can confide in and also bond with. And
Right.
that's not our role.
Right.
Our role is to listen, but also say, like, hey, like you're taking on too much,
Right.
regardless of whether we agree with you or disagree with you.
Hmm.
That has no place in your healing, or that has no place right now in your ability to understand your emotions because it's hard to have emotions that are accurate about worldwide crises, right?
Yeah.
What are you supposed to feel? And then identify that, like anger, guilt, sadness, like what?
Right.
So,
It's interesting because I do think, and I think me and you are both really good at it, where it's like our job is just to help people regulate and heal.
yeah.
So you can take anything, any topic out of it, right?
Hmm.
Like
Right.
religion, politics, any of that nitty gritty, it doesn't matter. I'm still there to be like, what's going on with this person? Why are they feeling like this? How do I help them see it? It's like
Right.
all the other stuff's to the side. Doesn't matter if I'm like, yeah, I don't agree with you. That
Right.
doesn't even matter,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Because even if I do agree with you, it's the same thing.
Yeah. Right.
But I do think because I've heard this before. I do
Hmm.
think some therapists, and us therapists all have our own stuff. We know that,
Yeah.
but some therapists are struggle with it too, especially the
Yeah.
political climate where it's like, no, I have a trouble when I have X client coming in talking about why. So like,
Yeah.
I can't even take that on for me,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So I think it goes both ways too. I think a therapist has to really know themselves for their own emotional
Sure.
health. Like, you can't take somebody on who's consumed this way because it just pisses me off.
Right. And that's fine. I think also therapists that decline certain clients get a bad rap.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. If a therapist says, "Hey, I can't help you," or "I don't treat this particular issue, I don't have expertise in it," they're
Either
doing
you
you
don't have expertise or it's for a good
a
reason because
good reason.
I do think there's therapists that are like, oh, I just don't want to take this person because
Right.
whatever.
Right. But, don't immediately write a therapist off just because they're like, "Yeah, I'm going to refer you out."
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
okay. Like we're human too, okay?
Right.
We know our limits and that's what we're trying to teach you.
Right. So what do you before we end, what do you would say is tips, tricks, tools that we would give people who were like, what do I do in the political climate today? Like what are things that maybe will help me
Mhm.
not be consumed, be in my own life, and not feel as anxious about everything going on around us.
I would say look for what your triggers are. For a lot of people, it's social media, right? It's very easy to go and block certain keywords from your algorithm. So if you know that there are certain issues going on in the world that you want to have nothing to do with, maybe use some of the features of your social media or take breaks or maybe don't engage with content that you know is stressful to you. It is okay to tell people like, hey, can we not talk about that? I just like don't have the capacity for it. Not interested in a conspiracy theory or, you know, whatever it is okay to have that boundary and remove yourself from that kind of conversation. But also, it is okay to bring it to therapy and just say, like, this is heavy and it's weighing on me and I don't know what to do about it. And it's okay not to care. Like, it really is.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, that's just their way to cope too. Like, you know, I care so much that I can't care. So,
Yeah, right.
like,
So,
what am I
is
going to do
that
about it?
adaptive or no?
Right.
Let's think about it. Um, so what about you? What did I miss that you would suggest that people do if this is too heavy or too much?
I agree with everything you say. I think social media is a huge trigger for people these days. Like, you know, because we're all in the doom scroll. You know,
Hmm.
we're on our phones all the time. So I think just
Yeah.
news is easily just pushed our way, even if it's not something we click
Yeah.
on. It usually just ends up in our feed because it's such a big thing. And with everything going on, how could it not just pop up in some
Sure.
way? Or you have people just on there like having their own opinions that they want to put out there. So it's like it's gonna get to you, but it's kind of like
Yeah.
always monitor your social media. The news is a huge one for me. I think people just leave the news on all the time. And I definitely just think that's detrimental to anybody's mental and emotional health. Like I get if you are a person who's like I really want to stay informed, like yeah, just limit yourself. Like let me just look at it for 10 minutes, see if anything happened and just because I want my awareness and like let me move forward.
Yeah.
I think support, but not to be around people who are gonna you know when we talk about venting can be good to a point, right? Where
Yeah.
we're like we just want to get it out first
Right.
and then we'll do something with it. But if you find yourself with people bitching and complain about the same thing over and over again when it comes to politics, I
Yeah.
think that's really unhealthy because you know a whole bunch
Yeah.
of groups. It's like when we talk about the holidays and people are like, "Gonna go to my house," and then my whole family sits there and talks about politics
Right.
and that's our whole conversation all night. And I'm like,
Sure.
I get if you want to kind of just vent to your friend really quick, like, "Wow, the world's burning," but like, are you constantly surrounding yourself with people that are like, "This is
Yeah.
all we talk about"? I think
Right.
that's important because I think there's loads of groups of people that's all they do.
Yeah.
Um, what else would I say? I would say, how do you get into your own life? Like, how do
Hmm.
you say, okay, if I'm upset with this about this thing, what do I realistically think I can do about it, if anything?
Hmm. Yeah.
Like, would it sit well with me, like that girl I told you that, like, I'm gonna go with my friends and do this charity event, or
Yeah.
do this thing, or I'm just gonna show up in the world this way, or however it might show up for you, where you're like, it's gonna give me more peace to do even a little something to have a little purpose in my life.
Sure.
I do think people can channel it into ways that can make them feel good about themselves and how
Hmm.
they're coming off in their own life. And
Yeah.
I think those little things go a long way for people
Yeah.
without trying to go to the macro.
Yeah, I agree. Keep it small, keep it simple, doable, relatable, and it should make you feel good and not forced and not overwhelmed.
Yes, love that.
In a nutshell.
In a nutshell. All right, squad, we would love to hear from you if you have any political issues that you are really being consumed by and you would like to just let us know. We are here for all of that. So,
Yeah, we would love to hear it. And as always, thank you for being here with us, and we'll see you next time
next time
on We All Have Stuff.
on We All Have
Love you,
Stuff.
bye.
Bye, guys.